Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us, Lauren. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and then go ahead and dive into your presentation? We're so excited to hear about
Sure.
pricing.
I'm going to go ahead and get my screen up.
Okay.
So are you able to see my slide deck?
It says it's loading. Yes, there it is.
Okay, great. And just a little bit about me. Basically, I am a sports psychologist turned business coach. With that, what I have found is that there's more similarities between athletes and high achieving entrepreneurs than differences. They just go for different numbers and wear slightly different uniforms. Plus, athletes get coaching right from the get-go as peewees, whereas as entrepreneurs, we tend to be pretty much control freaks and want to figure it out on our own. Therefore, over the journey, I've been doing business coaching since 2009. It's really been a journey, and my path has taken me in different directions than what I ever anticipated. What I have found is my specialty is working with accounting professionals on how to double their income while working half the time, because I believe that when you do well, you lift your clients up, similar to what Ingrid talks about with a rising tide raises all ships. You generously give back to the community, to the economy, on a regional as well as a global level. It's just this kind of wave of good that happens when businesses prosper and do well. They need bookkeeping services. You are definitely right now frontline responders. Because of that, I feel you work so hard and you are usually trading dollars for hours. I am really dedicated to showing accounting professionals how to be able to separate their fees from time in order to have a business that thrives, that supports you. When you are supported, you're able to support your clients better and at a deeper level. And you don't have to be able to sacrifice your lifestyle any longer. It now supports your lifestyle. Anyway, that is basically what I do. Is I work on the pricing side and being able to package your services to have you be seen as the go-to expert. With Ingrid and I, when we first started talking about this, maybe 2 months ago, was before we started sheltering in place. It was about being able to raise your rates without losing clients. A lot of this still applies, and as Ingrid was mentioning, some of the questions that might come up will be about how do you maybe adjust towards the given circumstances right now with COVID-19 and so many businesses not really thriving. I am happy to answer those questions too. What I see as far as the entrepreneur challenge is, first of all, that's our son having graduated from SOU 2 years ago. And he was in the School of Business. One of the things I told him right off the bat was that make sure you take a class in sales, because if you learn how to sell, you can do anything. Well, SOU in the entire business school had a marketing department. They did not offer even one class in sales, even though the statistics show that 75% of their graduates are going to end up in some type of sales position. And that was my truth also, is that I learned how to do what I do really, really well, but I never was taught how to be a business owner. I was prepared to work for somebody else. I believe that that's true for most of us going through school, because that I didn't know how to network. I didn't know how to price my services, and I didn't know how to do sales whatsoever. That is really a big part of why I'm moving in this direction, is because if we can figure those things out, then you have a thriving business where you no longer have to sacrifice other parts of your life to be able to help your clients. Basically, well, this might be how your office looks now that we're into all the SBA loans and COVID-19 with the PPP and so on and so forth. But if you feel that you are just inundated with tasks where you're swimming under a mountain of paperwork, that you have to be able to work additional hours in order to make more money, that your clients maybe don't really value what it is you bring to the table, they are very price sensitive, then absolutely this is the right conversation. We're going to be able to dive into some of those things. I believe that everything you need to know to have a profitable business is available on the internet. Probably since COVID-19, there's even more available on the internet as far as free classes, free resources, similar to what we're doing right now with the Woodard meeting, and we're all meeting on Zoom. There is so much out there. There's a lot of business owners right now that are unable to serve their clients. They don't have any clients, as some of you mentioned with yours. They're taking this time to really focus on things that will help to expand their business, help them to grow, and maybe be better positioned for once we go back to regular business operations, whatever that means. So all the information is out there. It's more of why do some people apply it and others don't. And that's a little bit of what we're going to touch on also. Just really slightly about me is the last couple years I've been noted as one of the top business coaches globally by HubSpot, and that has been an honor. A lot of what I do with connecting with my people is speaking. As Ingrid mentioned, Scaling New Heights has been changed. I'm actually happy that it's going to be in Orlando because I'm originally from Florida, so I get to see family. And at Scaling New Heights, I'm going to be teaching 4 sessions this year. So I went from 1 session last year to 4 this year. I am thrilled. Speaking is part of what I do to be able to touch people. Since I can't do any in-person speaking right now, my emphasis is more on doing virtual speaking as we're doing today. What I'm going to cover is pricing mistakes, the formula, and then how to be able to raise your rates once you're able to do that. You might not want to apply it right now. However, I'm going to give you the steps so that once you get to that point where you feel comfortable raising your rates again, you'll have the steps to be able to put that in place. I will absolutely give you as much as I possibly can in this time we have available. If you're interested in talking further, I will let you know how to get in touch with me at the end of our conversation today. And I'm going to just dive into the pricing mistake. From my research, up to 57% of entrepreneurs undercharge for their services. That includes accounting professionals, bookkeepers, enrolled agents, CPAs. If you're under that umbrella, that includes you also. A lot of that is because most of us went into workforce as employees where we were paid somehow an hourly rate or a salary, but our income was connected to time. As we moved into our own bookkeeping services, we simply took that model with us into our current business. Because of that, you're actually undercharging and leaving a lot of money on the table, which I will hope to give you some insights for you to start fixing. The biggest problem is really connecting your fees to time. When you connect your fees to time, which is the billable hour, and Ingrid and I have talked about it, it was started about 100 years ago by an attorney to justify his high fees. It's not even based on logic. It was created by an attorney who wanted to give his clients justification as to why he was charging them so much. When you connect your fees to time, there's only so much you can earn. You eventually hit an income ceiling. In order to earn more, you have to sacrifice other parts of your life. You already work hard. It's not the only way to be able to earn money for the services that you offer. And I'll dig deeper into some of the alternatives as we move forward. But I want you to just remain open to charging differently than charging for your time, because I think that charging an hourly rate is like renting out your soul. And you're worth so much more than just your time. Basically, value is subjective. Now, value is an abstract concept. We have a hard time wrapping around that. What that means, I want to give you an example. If you are at one of my presentations, you're thirsty, you go in the back of the room, I have bottles of water. You might go ahead and maybe pay $1 or $2 for a bottle of water to quench your thirst. However, if I have that same exact bottle of water, you have been walking around in the hot, dry desert for 3 days. You're just about at the end of your rope. You can feel the life energy just coming out of you. And you don't know whether the next sand dune is going to give you the town lights or more sand. And then I magically appear with that same bottle of water, same packaging, same ounces, everything. And I tell you that I have the way out of the desert for you. Then how much is that same bottle of water plus the ticket out of the desert worth to you? And if you want to put it in the chat, go ahead and do that. Ingrid, I'm not watching the chat, so if anybody answers, please go ahead and chime in. But think about that. How much is it worth to you, not just to quench your thirst, but to get out of the desert? Now, the reason that what you pay might be more than $1 or $2 than if you were in the back of the room is because your needs, your wants, and desires have changed. You need water to be able to continue surviving, since you can only go about 72 hours without having any water. You want to be able to quench that dry, scratchy feeling that's in your throat. You desire to make it out of the desert to keep on living. When you tap in those needs, wants, and desires of your clients, where they see that you can take them out of the desert and quench their thirst, then your value rises, and it's more than your time. They are hiring you for an outcome or some benefit that they simply can't achieve on their own. So Ingrid, is anybody going to pay for that water?
No one's put in the chat yet, but yeah, it's basically priceless at that point. You know, if it's a life or death situation, the water is priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no right or wrong answers on this. But okay, I think somebody added to the
Janice
chat.
says, I'm sure I would pay all I've got.
Okay, and just so you know, Janice, I'll have my square with me, so we're good to go. And basically, this is what happened with Devin, is that when I first met her, she's the main breadwinner in her family, that she is working long hours as a bookkeeper. She's actually an attorney that now has a bookkeeping practice. She does bookkeeping for attorneys' offices. She was giving away so much for free when we first met because she undervalued herself. She was so fearful of not being able to make ends meet that she just was rolling things into her monthly service that she could have been paid for. An example is when she would take on a new client, she was setting up she's in Xero. She was setting up their bookkeeping on Xero for free. And she was doing their cleanup for free as part of her monthly service to them. She was just rolling it into her hourly rate. We started separating that, and I showed her a 3-step process for onboarding new clients. And as a result of that, her rates have gone up 5-fold. She's been able to actually let go of her non-ideal clients who were never a good fit for her before. And it's made a difference in her business. Because of everybody being home at her house, she's able to actually take care of her kids doing school. And as she said, she's a teacher. She is chief bottle watcher. She's the laundress wench. And she's also the main income earner in her house. So she's wearing a lot of hats right now. It hasn't affected her rates. And that's what happens when we start to separate your fees from time, is that clients value what you have to offer. They recognize what you're doing is much more than just the compliance part, and they will pay for that if they are ideal clients. We're going to move into the formula now. And if anybody has questions, either put them in the chat or else hold on to them, because I want to make sure that I do answer your questions. In the formula, the very first thing that you want to do is start to identify your ideal client. Your ideal client can either be demographics like an industry, such as what Ingrid was talking about with being in the travel tourism industry, or it could be psychographics, which is the personalities, characteristics, quality of the types of individuals you work best with. I'm a big fan of having a specific industry. However, I will say that right now with COVID, it's really opened my eyes to the fact that bookkeepers and accounting professionals right now are on the front lines. I see them as first responders. And the ones that are having trouble either are very specialized and the industry that they specialize in has tanked, such as Ingrid's. The ones that are doing better are either working in an industry that's still busy, such as the healthcare, a lot of cleaning services, and I'm sure that there's more. Grocery stores, food services. And there's also generalists that are doing okay because they didn't focus on any one clientele. They have enough of a variety to keep them solvent at this point. But you want to think about, it might be industry or it could be personality. And the reason that the personality, the psychographics is important is because you might be working in an industry, but it doesn't mean that you're going to have chemistry with every single person in that industry. There's some personality types that you work better with than others. That's true for me and that's true for you. And start to become aware of what are the personality types that you work well with. An example for me is I don't work well with whiners, with people who simply want to focus on all that's wrong, but they don't want to take any personal responsibility. They don't want to put in the effort to be able to make some shifts or changes. Therefore, if they're a whiner, there's somebody else that loves them. It's just not me because I'm more of a results junkie. So that's something that I found out about me. The other thing that I found out about me and my ideal client, which I thought was really interesting, is a lot of times my ideal clients are the opposite of me. They tend to be people who are overthinkers. They're a little bit risk adverse. They worry about what other people will say about them because they're very service oriented and they don't want to disappoint other people. Therefore, my clients tend to be the opposite of me, and it is actually part of why I work with accounting professionals so well. It is because a lot of accounting professionals seem to be risk adverse and overthinkers. As you're starting to look at your ideal client, what you want to focus on is the value. There's 3 different parts to this. This is knowing what is the immediate benefits that your clients get from working with you. What are they able to do, or what problem gets solved because of them working with you? And there's some surface ones, those are the immediate ones as to why they hire you. There's benefits to having clean books. There's benefits to having everything ready to be able to file their taxes at the end of the year, to be able to do forecasting and understand where their cash flow is, or to be able to go ahead and close up where there's money leaks or money's just going down a black hole. All those things are the obvious benefits. Now, there's also secondary benefits that they get from working with you. The secondary benefits are the next level things that they're able to do because of them working with you. An example of going back to Devin, who I was just talking about, she was able to sign on a new client about 2 weeks ago. She originally would have done this project for him for $5,000. She actually quoted him, gave him a proposal for $40,000, and she got paid up front. Because of that injection of cash that she got right now, she can finally have her assistant go from part-time to full-time because the additional cash flow. Therefore, Devin is now able to pass on more of the day-to-day tasks that she does in her bookkeeping business to her new full-time assistant because she's had this increase in cash flow. The other thing, and think about your clients when you're helping them and they have better ideas to where their money's coming from because their books are now clean and they know where things are profitable and where maybe they're breaking even or possibly even losing money. Are they able to expand their business? Maybe they're able to finally pay themselves, or they can take a much needed vacation without worry that they haven't been able to do for the last 5 or 6 years. And think about that for you. What is possible because of the fact that your clients are having you manage their cash flow and their money for them? The third part of this is the hidden benefit. We had the primary, which is the obvious, the secondary, which are the potential things they can now do that they couldn't do before. And the hidden one is, what is the cost of if they hadn't hired you and they continue to deal with these things, they continue to tolerate this problem? What is the hidden cost of continuing to tolerate that thing or not having the accurate information? Become aware of that also with your ideal clients. It is absolutely golden insight for you to have. And I would love in the chat, if you know of a hidden problem that comes from continuing to tolerate and not having hired you, what would they have continued to have dealt with? Go ahead and put in the chat what that would have been for some of your clients. Would love to hear what some of those things are that you've been able to help your clients move forward with and solve their problem. Maybe give them peace of mind around something.
Well, we're waiting for people to put that in the chat, Loren. I just want to, when you were talking about your ideal clients being, not whiners and also the risk-averse overthinking, Joanne posted, "I'm your ideal client, LOL." And then Heather said, "Me too." And Janice said, "Yep, me three." So you are speaking to your ideal audience in this group.
I am in the right place.
Yep.
And really, it's been a process. It's not something that I knew right off the bat, but I just started looking for those things and found that we're just an ideal fit.
Yep.
That when I work with bookkeepers, I simply know how to help them take action faster than if they continue to get stuck in the research phase and thinking about it.
Analysis paralysis.
Right. Because think about it. And you don't have to answer this question, any of you, but think about how long have you thought about raising your rates or maybe firing a non-ideal client and you just haven't done it yet? And well, I get to do that with you because I show you how to do it in a way that feels genuine and authentic to you. And as a result, you get to have a business you love. So we're all on the same page. We're working towards the same thing. Thanks for sharing that, Ingrid.
Yeah. So that, and I haven't seen any chats from others yet, but I definitely have an example of, we were saying the question, one of the main pain points and the cost of that pain point for our clients. And one of the main pain points why I decided to specialize in the tourism activities industry is seasonal cash flow and this constant rob from the next year to pay for the current situation routine, and the amount of peace of mind and business growth and just that they're constantly stuck in this situation where they're digging themselves a hole and they can't get out, and they don't understand why, because it seems like things are going fine when they're flush with money, but they don't understand how long that money needs to last them. And then they end up spending it before their next season starts and they're in a pickle again. And helping to dig them out of that pain and showing them that they can not only have enough money to survive their off season, but they can also set aside money to survive disruption, which one of my clients is sitting pretty in terms of the current situation, and that, you know, he's able to assess where he wants to go and what he wants to do next, given that his business is not likely to start up for another 18 months because he's an international tour company whose season starts in the fall. So he's looking at a pretty long wait before things start up again. So in the meantime, he's like, all right, well, fortunately, I've got this nice big cushion. What do I want to do that's different? What do I want to do next? And we're in these conversations together, and it's such a change from the business as usual that a lot of businesses go through. And Janice says, just one point, continuing to be behind on filing taxes continues if she's not helping them to stay on top of each month with transactions and reconciliations. And Heather says, a number of my clients would put off their bookkeeping until the weekend and then either put it off or take away from their families. So hiring me, they got back the precious time with their families. That is so important. And
that is so important.
That is priceless.
So
recognizing
absolutely.
that these pains are not just monetary.
Right. And for most business owners, they have stuff around money, and dealing with the bookkeeping part is painful. It is overwhelming. They say, oh, I'll get to it next month. And then by the time that they need to file their taxes, they have to do a whole year's worth in a matter of a couple of weeks, probably, because they've been procrastinating. And think about when you know you're procrastinating, and this is true for your clients also, when you know that you're procrastinating, it actually is something that stays in the back of your mind. It affects your focus. It's a distraction. It also keeps you from moving forward in another way. And think about that with your clients. If they're procrastinating, it's actually affecting them probably emotionally as well as professionally in their business. So I'm going to move forward. Okay, 70-30 rule. When you are talking with a potential client during a consult, you want to practice what I call the 70-30 rule, which is they do 70% of the talking and you do 30%. That means that you don't have to pitch your services. You don't have to sell someone into working with you. What you're doing is you are asking great questions to be able to understand their needs, their wants, and their desires. When you do that, it's a much different conversation. There's no selling in at all. You can start to figure out whether there's someone you want to work with or not. And I will let you know if you have any red flags come up or gut feelings, pay attention to that. Don't just push it out of the back of your mind, because how often did you have a red flag or a gut feeling about someone that you didn't think would be a good client, and then because you needed the money, you took them on anyway? You lived to regret that decision. It's easier to avoid bringing on a non-ideal client than trying to fire one afterwards, because we just hold on to people for too long. And being able to follow the 70-30 rule, where they're answering questions and doing 70% of the talking, lets you learn a lot about their needs, their wants, and their desires. Plus, if it's a really good fit, they're going to just at the end ask you, how does this work? And at that point, you get to decide whether you want to move forward with them or not. If you know that they're not a great fit for your business, all you have to do is bless them and send them on their way to keep on moving forward and finding someone who's a better fit for them. And if anybody has any questions about that, Ingrid, please have them put in the chat. We will come back to that. When you are looking to separate your fees from times, you want to have packages. This is an example, a really basic one of what 3 packages look like. You want to have, and I'm going to go from right to left actually, you want to have silver, gold, and diamond when you're talking with someone. With the silver one, it is the basics, just the essentials of what your clients need to be able to have you do their work for them, get their books up to date, or keep their books maintained on a monthly basis. But it is for the clients that either can't really afford you at the higher level, or they are doing some of it themselves. If you're okay having clients do some of their own books. Some of you are okay with that, some of you aren't. You need to make that decision, but it's the very, very minimal basic for clients that don't really want that much extra or can't afford more. And then there's the gold package, which is where the majority of your clients will fit in. It's a combination of what they currently need as well as some additional, and usually the additional is the consulting piece. This starts to transition you from a compliance bookkeeper who's now competing with what QuickBooks is offering through bookkeeping services, and it starts to put you more into the advisory position where you are now helping them gain insights based on their financials on how to be able to grow their business. It's similar to what Ingrid was talking about with the tourism industry. Because of their seasonality, she's able to help them do some things regarding their money, about how they are taking money and putting it into reserves, or how they are able to use certain apps that will help with scheduling or other things easing their business, making them more profitable. And that is really where a lot of your value comes from, is helping partner with them in some way to be able to advance their business forward. And then the diamond package is for those clients that have some certain exceptions. They want you to do things a little bit differently than everybody else, or they want more access to you. They might have a larger business than the ones that fit into the gold package. And therefore, you're now offering a variety of options. Now, when someone's coming to talk with you and you're meeting with them, you're showing them the 3 options and explaining the different ones available to them. And they now will be more likely to decide which way they want to work with you, as opposed to if they want to work with you. And the reason this is important is because our brains have to compare something. If you don't give them anything to compare, such as options for working with you, they're going to compare you to the next bookkeeper. If you give them options such as packages on how to work with you, now they're just comparing one package to the next, and they're more likely to move forward with you. And there we go. Go ahead, Ingrid.
There's a great question in the chat. Joanne said, getting back to what you were saying about not taking on the wrong clients. She asked, how do I discern the difference between a true bad gut feeling as opposed to the typical apprehension that accompanies unfamiliarity with their process or industry?
Part of what I think happens is you know your ideal client. And once you know your ideal client, you can bring certain questions into your consult that helps you to discern whether it's really a bad client, or it might be that their books are just so messed up they can't give you the answers in the way that you need it because they don't have accurate information. The other thing that I will say is most bookkeepers onboard clients too quickly, and I'm actually developing a new course. Ingrid, you don't even know about it, but it's going to be, not yet, I'm building it out right now, but it is going to be a course that helps you with your onboarding and cleanup so that it's more profitable, and it solves this bringing on bad clients problem.
Nice. Can I add something there?
Yeah, please.
When it comes to, for me, discerning the difference between a true bad gut feeling as opposed to apprehension, I try to get any fear out of the equation. I've taken a bit of the Simon Sinek approach, as taking fear and transmuting it into excitement. And so when I'm trying to figure out whether or not a client is a good fit, getting the fear out of the way and asking myself, do I feel excited about the prospect of working with this person? If it's apprehension that accompanies unfamiliarity, is it unfamiliarity that I am feeling nerdy and excited about taking on? Or is it unfamiliarity where it's like, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to like this one. In which case it's not apprehension. It's just, that feeling of not a fit, in the same way that if we try to put on clothes that don't quite fit us, it's not an apprehension that the clothes don't fit. It's not an apprehension that the clients don't fit, or a fear that the clients don't fit. It's just not a fit, and there's no blame in not a fit. So being able to ask ourselves whether or not it's a fit can remove some of the performance anxiety and fear of judgment on the client side of things and all those other things, just focusing on, am I a fit for them? Are they a fit for me? And that's helped me a lot.
Absolutely. It goes back to ideal clients, where you know your ideal clients, you know the psychographics as well as the industry that they are focusing on, the demographics. The other part is that now that you have that awareness that with some there's apprehension and then with some they are just not a fit, as you're continuing to talk with people, I would say tune into what is it that's coming up for you that's either giving you an indication as to why they're not a fit or causing you to feel apprehension. I think that the fact that you have awareness is the first step to be able to have a better idea as to why that's coming up. My guess is with some of it, there might be something that where you're getting triggered. And I don't want to go fully into that now. That's a whole other thing. But they might be triggering you in some way. And that is definitely worth tuning into to be able to figure out whether it's apprehension or just not a good fit. And Ingrid, just a little bit about you before I move on, is when we first met, you were just taking your business from home-based into office. We started talking about, you were working with everybody in the community. And we started working on some of those things that I just talked about in the formula about ideal clients. We started talking about the pricing piece, which was a very big discussion. And from those things, you've been able to really hone in on your people and your industry, and even moving away over iterations from the compliance bookkeeping into more of the advisory and the consulting piece. So, and that you continue to earn more and cut away some of those non-ideal clients, which is a wonderful thing to see. So thank you. Oh, and because I know that having those consultations is maybe something that you can see the benefit of, if you go to businesssuccesssolution.com/script, there is a word-for-word consultation there that you can just use. I've done all the work for you. You can just go there, you can get the script, it's done for you. You just maybe put in a couple things to make it really yours, and I show you exactly where in the script to plug those things in. And it's plug and play. It lets you have a value conversation as opposed to a sales conversation. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm going to move on to the last piece, which is how do you start to communicate or raise your rates with existing clients? The very first thing is you want to reach out and let them know that you want to schedule a conversation. You can do that either by email or by snail mail, whichever way you tend to communicate best with your clients. And then get that on the calendar. When you have that conversation with them, you want to take that sales scripts that I just told you and really use that to have it be more of a discovery conversation. During the discovery conversation, you're focusing on their needs, their wants, and their desires. You're going to be asking questions of what are just the basic things that they need to continue to maintain operations and move forward. The wants are things that they recognize are important, however, they cannot achieve on their own. Start to find out what are the things that they want to maybe achieve over the course of a specific period of time. It could be 6 months, it could be a year. It could be longer if you enjoy doing longer range forecasting. And then their desires are future focused of something that they want to achieve. However, they're not positioned to be able to do that right now. When you're able to find out those things during a conversation with your client, then you can find out how to partner with them to achieve those things. And out of the needs, the wants, and the desires, if you can help them achieve their desires, and if you can help them achieve it with less cost, or where they make more money, or they can achieve it faster than doing it on their own, that's where your highest value starts to come forward, because now you're moving more into that advisory piece. It's focusing on your expertise to helping them do something that they feel that is in the future and is probably further off than it needs to be. The other thing when you're in this conversation is recognize that there are going to be objections. They've been paying you a certain way for quite a while, whether you do billing and you're charging them after you've done the work, or pricing, which is my recommendation, where you're getting paid before you do the work. Either way, whether it's fixed on pricing or you're billing by the hour, either way, when you're moving to value pricing and you're looking at packages with them, there are going to be some objections because of the fact that they've always done it a certain way and people don't like change. Instead of letting the objections throw you off, be aware of what some of the most common objections are that they might ask, and have an idea as to how you want to answer them. And then the last thing is, be comfortable asking for the money and accepting it. I know for a fact that clients are willing to prepay for services. As I explained with Devin earlier, she got paid $40,000 up front. And she would have been doing the same work as if it would have been $5,000 and she got paid on the back end over a year ago. So clients, when they see the value and it's set up right, they will pay you up front. Be okay with asking for the money and being able to receive it and how you want to accept it. For some of you, it might be ACH, others you might have a terminal, but be okay with talking about the money piece right then and there and focusing on how to be able to make that work. And this is Susan. When we first started working together, she had low self-esteem where she was giving it all away. She was afraid of firing any client because of fear of needing the money. She got really badly burned in 2008 during the recession. She was afraid of that happening again, where they would end up losing everything. With the work that we did together, immediately I was helping her quote her cleanup jobs. And the very first time we sat down together with that, one cleanup job where she would have quoted $1,500, I helped her price it at $8,500, and she got the job. And once again, she got paid in full with that. And with those clients, she's actually in the process of raising their rates again for their maintenance bookkeeping at this point. So even now, you have certain clients that see your value and they are okay with you raising your rates. Anyway, we covered the pricing mistakes, the formula, and how to convert existing clients. Also, I mentioned if there was anybody want to have a further conversation with me, to go to businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk, and we can go ahead and find some time to talk further about your business and how you would like it to be more profitable.
Wonderful. Thank you, Loren.
Yeah.
So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. People can take themselves off mute to voice questions, or if your microphone isn't working, feel free to post in the chat and I'll read them out loud. And we can dive into some Q&A. So I would love to hear kind of first responses to some of these ideas. Who's doing some of this already in their practices?
I charge by the job, but not anywhere near those prices. I don't know where do you even go to find clients that are willing to pay? Where do you market to them?
Ingrid, do you want to start with that answer maybe?
Sure. Well, I guess what I did was I really started looking at, so when Loren talked about how I increased my business 30% or doubled my business by letting go 30% of my clients, that was where I started. I looked at my client list, and I actually, from within my QuickBooks, printed up a list of my clients. I exported it to Excel, and I rated my clients by who was paying the most. Back then I was still charging by the hour. So how far behind they were in paying me. I don't charge by the hour anymore. I don't get
Good thing
paid.
we fixed that.
Yep, exactly. And then how much I loved working with them. And the interesting thing was that I really discovered that the clients who paid me the most, paid me on time, were also the clients that I loved working with the most. And I looked at the industries that those clients were in. And at that point, they were in totally different industries. The top three that floated to the top. One was an attorney, which I didn't want to specialize in attorneys. My dad's an attorney. And, you know, he was kind of a unicorn in the legal industry in that he was pretty fun to work with. One of them owned an oil change franchise, which I wasn't interested in specializing in oil change franchises. And he was a bit of a unicorn in his industry also. And the third one was a tour guide, ran a tour company, United States business, but operated in Mexico. And I basically said, you know what, I'm going to clone that one. And I'm going to start to gear my marketing to find more clients like this. So I created my client avatar. And in my case, my client avatar was a real person. And it made it much easier to find other clients similar to him. And that was where I started really focusing. And I interviewed that client. I said, hey, I want to start finding more clients exactly like you. And he was thrilled. He's like, you want to specialize in what I do? Okay. And he was happy to help me, providing testimonials. When I was able to interview him about what we had done together and what had really gone right, and turned that into an article that I posted online. It's a blog on my website. And I also had that article published in a couple of online publications for that tours and activities operators, organizations for tours and activities operators. And just working to develop those connections, and went to a conference that focused on tours and activities companies and met a bunch of people there. And next thing I knew, people were saying, there's an accountant that specializes in us. Wonderful. Come speak at our conferences, teach webinars, do all these things. And yeah, I was, getting elevated by my ideal clients. And it worked really well. And even then, I still don't take all comers. I'm pretty choosy about which ones I work with. I tell them that I specialize in helping businesses get from 6 figures to 7. So if a business is making under $300,000, they're probably not ready for me. I have educational tools and free, articles and resources for startups that are in the DIY needing to really budget themselves phase. And making sure that my clients can afford me before I work with them has been another really good thing. So yeah, it's a journey, and that took several years, but also at that time, I didn't have a ton of resources. A lot of it, I was figuring it out on my own trial and error style. So helping other people save time on that journey is fantastic. And it's been also a huge help having Loren in my court along the way.
And I want to add to that. Sometimes you have to start out with knowing who you don't want to work with. And it's a process of elimination. There might be certain personalities that just rub you the wrong way. They don't follow through. You're always chasing them. They ghost you. Start to become aware of those qualities that you don't want to work with. You also might find that there are certain industries that you enjoy more than others. For example, some people like the job costing of construction. Other people, they don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And that's something to really start to become aware of also, is maybe are there certain things in a particular profession that you enjoy. And it's a process. For many years, as Ingrid knows, I went back between two camps. I was looking at photographers and marketers over here, and then bookkeepers, accounting professionals over here, because I like the variety. And I just couldn't decide. And it was years where I couldn't decide, Heather. Eventually, I made the decision, and I haven't looked back ever since then. It was the process, though. And I would say for you, continue working with a variety of different industries. And if you're working with businesses, go to chambers, go to B&I possibly. B&I is great for bookkeepers.
I'm actually part of a B&I group.
Okay.
Which one?
Integrity Connections.
Oh,
okay, great. Anyway, B&I is a great resource for bookkeepers, and it's a great way for you to start really building your business. You'll get a variety of services, and then and just from having one-to-ones with people there, you might find that there's certain personalities you like better than others. Having that awareness is the first start.
Loren and I met through B&I years and years and years
Mm-hmm.
ago. And she was in Rogue Valley Professionals and I was in Ashland Business Connections. And I was in B&I for about 5 years and ended up deciding to leave B&I when it got to the point where my ideal clients were coming to me primarily from other accounting professionals who were referring to me.
Okay.
And so that's one of the reasons why we started focusing more and more on our local Woodard group, is because our best referral partners are each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I am approached by a Rogue Valley client who's looking for bookkeeping services and they're not in my ideal industry, I'm going to refer them to you guys, the bookkeepers who I have gotten to know, like, and trust. And, learning what your ideal clients and specialties are, being able to match up those right fit people, that is a hot referral. Whereas in a B&I chapter, I was getting a lot, it got to the point where I was pretty full, so I wasn't taking very many new clients. And so my B&I chapter was like, so who do we send our bookkeeping referrals to if you're not taking them? And I'm like, Integrity Connections?
And I want to make sure that we answer other people's questions too, Ingrid.
Yep, I'll just finish that one thought. The referrals that I was getting from my B&I chapter were primarily no longer a fit. So that's one of the things that you might find also, Heather, when you really choose a specialty, that the referrals get much more refined.
Good, thanks.
Janice posted in the chat, she said, I raised my hourly rate with both my clients and they didn't balk at all. I also raised my hourly rate for editing and that works too, although I made it so that a new client pays a lot more than a long-term client. I tried with one client, which I've had for 15 years, to set up an appointment for a consultation because I wanted to see how I could expand my services for them, etc. I asked over and over. They put me off for an entire year. And now we're on hold because of COVID-19. I can't do remote because they have QuickBooks Enterprise. So, wow.
Well, I'm going to, first of all, the fact that you raised your rates, congratulations. I want to know, Janice, how long did you think about it before you actually did it?
She's typing. I can see her typing.
Yep, I can see that.
A few years.
Yep, that's what I see with so many bookkeepers, is you want to do it. You could see your value increasing, and it just takes a couple of years because of fear of, I'll lose clients, they're going to go to somebody else, all this scarcity that holds you back in your business.
Yeah.
And just want to say that is true for most bookkeepers that I talk with. With that being said, it is harder to transition current clients to your new rates than it is with new clients. So I always encourage you to try out new rates or packages with new clients coming in than with the old ones. You get comfortable with those conversations and then go back to your older ones and have those conversations with them at that point. With this one particular client that put you off for a year, you have to decide who's in charge of your business and who's making the decisions. think about the fact that they right now are kind of calling the shots to some degree, and that it might get to the point where they're no longer an ideal client because your rates have gone up. So you actually lose money continuing to work with them. And that you can only offer so much, and then them not responding to you is kind of a response that they're not really interested. And I will also say that once you let a non-ideal client go, it opens up the room for a really great client to come in and fill that void. And it's a beautiful thing when that happens.
Yep.
Okay, I must have hit something on Janice, because she's getting ready to type. That came up for you, Janice? Okay, I let go of vetting clients, and that happened, new space. It might be the same with this particular client, that you've already had the experience of letting go of non-ideal clients, and that you got new ones coming in. I think that that will be true with this also. My feeling right now is people see more value in accounting professionals, bookkeepers than they ever did before. They are hungry for someone to help them, and that this is a great time to do some type of recalibration in your business.
Nice. Any other questions or things coming up from the presentation? Joanne, you're muted. I don't know if you're seeing that. Oh, Janice says, I like how you're calling us first responders. Yes.
Yes, I absolutely believe that. You guys are on the front lines.
Putting a lot of businesses on life support these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So speaking of that, Loren, I would love for us to dig in a little bit to how some of these ideas uniquely apply in our world today when we're in situations where our clients are struggling, where maybe they need nice clean books to get their SBA loan applications out, but they don't have the money or the cash flow to cover it, and they're not sure how to move forward. And that's a tricky, sensitive conversation. And it's one of those things where I know I've been really walking the line between essentially giving away as much as I comfortably can to create a rising tide that raises all ships, while also not, I guess, bankrupting myself on an energetic level. And just wanting to take care of people and making sure that they're seeing and feeling that care, but it's a fine line. And a lot of times we especially struggle with asking for money when we know that people don't have any. So how do we tackle that situation?
Sure. First of all, if they're your clients, they already ought to have good books. Let's just go there. And that my feeling with right now is relationship before revenue. You want to really focus on the relationship more than it being about the money at this moment, because this is a unique situation. And there's times over the course of even normal business situations where some clients fall on hard times. You might want to really think about how that might be a higher value that you bring into your business. Given that there's a couple different ways that I would look at approaching this. First of all, with new clients coming in, I wouldn't your rates. Keep your rates where they are for new clients coming in. Own it. It does more damage later on trying to get your rates up to place than it does giving someone a lower rate right now. And there's value to them having your help. Now, with clients that you're already working with, there's 4 different ways to be able to approach this. The very first one is do terms with them. Ingrid and I had a conversation maybe about a year or so ago about going from billing to pricing with your clients. How do you help them? And that you can help them be able to have terms to be able to get caught up and make the switch from billing to pricing. And that's true with right now also, is you don't have to necessarily lower your fees with some clients. It's a case-by-case basis. Don't do anything blanket across the board.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I have an article, if you go to my website, the URL Ingrid will share, the very first article is actually about whether you ought to lower your rates for your current clients. So it actually addresses that. I just wrote it last week. And anyway, with some of them, you might be able to do terms where they just pay you out over time to catch up. With others, you want to look at the services that you're doing with them. Maybe you need to adjust the services, and that allows you to lower your rate. Especially if they went from being in business to business being closed, they might not need some of the things that they need when they're operational, and look at changing the things that you do for them to be able to then adjust your rates. Mm-hmm. The third thing is what I call finding the money. Is there places in their business where there's redundancies, there's unused subscriptions, or there's other types of money leaks that aren't necessary right now? If you could close those gaps, then they can go ahead and pay your fees. And then the fourth one is a scholarship slot, whether it's a full scholarship or a partial scholarship. When Steve and I had our counseling agency, we had 11 employees. Every therapist had one scholarship slot for someone who was already a client and fell on hard times. But we didn't want to let them go because they needed to have the therapy and the support. With that being said, we had then we could have up to 11 people at any one time having a scholarship slot. And what we looked at is we created guidelines for the scholarship slot. It was finite. It had a limitation as to how long it would last, whether it was 30, 60, or 90 days. It was for an existing client, not a new one. And once the scholarship expired, they went back to their normal fees. That's how we approached it. And these are 4 different things. Maybe there's something else that you've thought about, but whether you want to do terms, you want to maybe look at the services and adjust their services to make it more basic. You want to help them maybe close up some other money loops. I mean, think about how much is there maybe outstanding AR with some of your clients, and a focus on collections would help them right now in their business, especially if they are doing third-party billing with insurance. They ought to still have some monies coming in from insurance companies, because insurance companies can pay anywhere from 30, 60, or even longer out. Or that maybe they do billing also, and they have outstanding receipts that haven't been paid on. So I would look at something like that. And then the fourth one is the scholarship slots.
Fantastic. Thank you, Loren, for those tools.
Mm-hmm.
Questions about any of those? Janice is typing.
So Ingrid, I have a question. I just have a comment. So a special project I just took on with an existing client who, right, we have the advantage of seeing how much they can afford. We know. So I knew they had the money. They just were afraid to spend anything right now. So I took the terms approach, because I originally quoted a range. And so I said, okay, well, I'll do your terms. They were good for the money. I knew that I know I'm going to get paid. However, it's over. I never do a special project without prepayment. So I thought, okay, I'll do terms, but that's automatically going to put this project at the higher range. So that's how I handled it. in exchange for terms, I just said, okay, we'll go with the higher rate. And they took it without blinking an eye. So that was a good solution for me.
Good for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a really important point that you're bringing up, Joanne, is some businesses, although they're shut, they are working on their business now, investing in some way, because they realize they have this really nice chunk of time to do a project that they never would have the time for if it was business as usual.
Yep,
Mhm.
exactly.
One thing that comes to my mind, Loren, as you were talking, is the emotional response to those kinds of conversations. And going back to your fantastic analogy of water in the desert, I love that analogy. Right now, we're in a situation where suddenly a whole lot of business owners are finding themselves in the desert. And they're trying to figure out how to find water. And I guess the main question is, if we're the ones with the water, how do we want to handle that situation? And it all comes down to what feels really good to us in each of those situations. And I can pretty much guarantee that unless someone is feeling like a really crummy person, you know, if they can do something about it, they're not going to let somebody, you know, sit there and die in the desert if they have the means to save them. We will direct people toward the resources that we have as much as possible. You know, anything short of dying ourselves, carrying somebody out of the desert, that's not going to work very well. We can't martyr ourselves. But we also, you know, as far as, you know, recognizing that water in the desert is priceless, and what, you know, Janice was saying, you know, she'd pay whatever she's got. That puts us in a position of power and authority to, when we're doing the pricing, that can make our clients a bit fearful of extortion.
Yes, I was going to say that becomes an ethical issue for me.
Yep. So making sure that whatever price we are quoting, it is a win-win. It's got to be a win for us. It's got to be a win for the client, and that we're open to discussing those things and opening up that conversation so that we're comfortable, the client's comfortable. And if either side is not comfortable, then the conversation's not done.
I believe that you're talking about the value part. Part of what value means is that, and when you do value pricing, is your clients need to believe that what they have to gain is greater than the fees that they're going to pay you. When they feel that they have more to gain, whether it's gaining time back or money, then they are more likely to pay those fees. However, for someone to be willing to pay based on value instead of time, you first need to connect with your own value and recognize the value that you have to offer before you can expect someone else to see your value too.
Janice has a fantastic question she just posted in the chat. She says, Loren, what is your strategy for resilience? To be honest, it feels just like 2008 is back, and I have to deal with my own lack of confidence. How do I proclaim my authority when I'm in trouble myself? Back in 2009, we nearly lost our home. Mostly right now, my work is going fine because I've been working remotely since 1994, but my husband is totally unemployed now, and our daughter is an extra adult in our house now. So yeah, Janice, you are not alone. And that's a great question.
I believe that there's a lot of similarities between the recession and now, and I appreciate the transparency, Janice. What my feeling is that you have tenacity and you learned some things in 2008 that you put into place now. Also, that, let me just think of how I want to say, that you might be getting triggered because there's so many similarities regarding money and fear that are coming up for you. When you're feeling triggered, you go into that knee-jerk response and you're not necessarily thinking from the executive functions of your brain. You're thinking more from the fight, fight and survival part of it. I want to ask you now, first of all, the fact that you have a remote business, congratulations. That puts you ahead of most people. And also, you have a business right now, actually with both, because people need editing for their websites right now. They're doing more things remotely than they've ever done before. They're paying attention to it. And as far as bookkeeping goes, I firmly believe that you're a first responder. So you have two different types of skills that you offer where people are willing to invest in them right now. This is what can you be doing proactively so that people know that you're available to serve them and you're not being a best kept secret. And really think about that, because you have skills that people want to pay for right now. And my feeling is that you're in probably a different place in some ways than 2008. And maybe you need to turn off the social media or the news a little bit. Because that will tune into the fear. It's going to make it even worse. And think about your purpose, Janice, and the difference that you make for the people who are connected to you. I would say reach out, call people, talk to them, just check in and see how they're doing. Some of them might want to actually use you for your services right now.
Those are great ideas, Loren. Dennis is typing. Yay.
You're welcome.
She says thank you. One other thing that I want to add to that, Janice, is something that I've been finding is allowing myself to express my lack of confidence. And when I tell the clients with full transparency and vulnerability that I'm in a similar boat to them, you know, having this idea that we have to be perfect before we can help other people is not serving us. And everyone is in this situation right now where our finances are shaking up in the air. And unfortunately, in our American culture, we have kind of tied our self-worth to our finances, which is not effective for us. And our clients are feeling that a lot right now. And if we're able to say, you know what, I'm feeling that too, let's work through it together, that will develop an emotional attachment between you and your client where they will feel more open to reaching out to you, asking you for help. They're not going to feel judged by you. Whereas if your finances were perfect, you know, they might think, okay, great, maybe she can help me get my finances perfect too. But perfection is kind of unattainable and it gets in the way of where we are now.
And my comment there was that tap into your courage, even if you lack the confidence. It's similar to if you had a family member in a burning house and the front door was locked. You don't just simply turn your back on it and walk away. You find whatever way necessary to get into that burning house, save your family member, and bring that person out to safety.
Yeah. Yeah. Yay. Well, it is 2:00, which is when we generally end our meetings. So I guess one last little quickie check-in with everybody to see if there's any final questions before we wrap up.
Thank you. It was very valuable.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you so much, Loren, for joining us. And if anybody wants to find Loren, you can find Loren at businesssuccesssolution.com and check out that script resource is really useful. Any other particular things that you want to direct people toward, Loren?
No, if they want to have a further conversation with me, then I can be reached. It's businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk.
Let's talk. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. And Joanne and I are going to be putting our heads together and figuring out what our next few months of meetings look like, especially since Scaling New Heights has been moved to September. So we have some discussion of kind of where we want to take this group at this point. For anybody here now, or maybe watching this on Facebook after we post it, please let us know if there's any topics in particular that you'd like to see. We can create whatever the community is needing with this group, and we're here to support you. So we want to hear what it is you're looking for, what your struggles are, what your needs are, and we will do our best to make them happen, whether that be software demos, topics of discussion, certain presenters. Just let us know and we'll do our best to bring it in. Wonderful. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. Thank you, Loren, for presenting, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, Loren.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.